Welcome everyone, this is Jen for Solamo and welcome back to this video lesson. And today we are going to discuss Chapter 4, Unit 4, Law and Government. You can check them on your book on pages 112 to 115.
So at the end of this lesson, you will be able to recognize Lycurgus as the one who created the Spartan system of government. Identify the levels of Spartan government. Explain the role of each level in the government of Sparta. Identify the Cryptes role in Spartan government. And lastly, use and analyze a source. Now, let's have a short review of our lesson last time. So here, I want you to write the level of government in the space provided. Okay, I'll give you 30 seconds and time starts now. Okay, so let's check. They elected officials. Is it ecclesia or bully? So the correct answer is ecclesia. Okay, next. They passed decrees and made laws. That's still ecclesia. A person could be a member of this group for 1 year. Is it ecclesia or bully? Okay, that's bully. And this was council of 500 citizens over the age of 30. That's bully. They look after the day-to-day government of Athens. It's still bully. And the last one, all citizens could take part in this group. Of course, the correct answer is ecclesia. That's nice. Now for this activity, we are going to do this together. So are you ready? Let's begin. So Draco created the first written laws of Athens, and his laws were so harsh and cruel. Next, the government of Athens was known as the first democracy. Great. Now, what are the three levels of Athenian government? So we have here ecclesia. Who could take part in this? Okay, all citizens could take part. They passed decrees and made laws. They also elected officials, and some crimes were judged here. The next one, bully. So this is a council of 500 citizens who's over 30 years old. They look after the day-to-day government of Athens. Okay, and the last one we have law courts. So Athens had trial by jury. When say jury, juries were made up of 500 people or more. The accused shall defend himself. And after listening to the evidence, jurors voted by picking a disc in a jar. And we also have here what we call two special officials that were chosen to be in charge of religious matters, the courts, and the other parts of the government. The correct answer is archons. Okay, and how about the last one? It means expelling a citizen for 10 years by a popular vote. That is what we call ostracism. Perfect. Now, let's discuss law and government of Sparta. First, I want you to meet Lycurgus, or also known as the lawgiver of Sparta. But why? Because he created the Spartan system of government, and according to legend, the oracle at Delphi told him how to create the government. So what is oracle? It is a place where the Greeks believed that the gods would speak to the people. Well, the Phibia was the name of the high priestess of the temple of Apollo at Delphi, who also served as the oracle, so it's known as the Oracle of Delphi. Now let's analyze a source for E from your book. Extract from Life of Lycurgus by Plutarch, written in 75 CE. So, I want you to read it. Okay, now, what were the 3 changes that Lycurgus made to Sparta? So first, he divided the land equally. Okay, what else? He banned or stopped gold or silver. And lastly, he ruled that money must be made only from iron. Now let's move on. Try to analyze and match the name of the levels of the government to the correct picture. Okay, try it in 30 seconds. And time starts now. Now let's check. Okay, so the first one, the 2 kings. That's very easy. Okay, as you can see, there you are, the 2 kings. Okay, next, emperors. Here's the clue. 5 emperors were elected each year. So what do you think that is? Of course, we have there. As you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so 5 emperors. And next, we have the last 2, Council of Elders, or Gerousia, and Ecclesia. So which one do you think is Gerousia, or the Council of Elders? So that means they're a group of old people. Of course, that's it. And the last one, we have Ecclesia. So these are the 4 levels of government. So again, these were the levels of Spartan government, which was created by Lycurgus. Okay, this was very unique as Sparta was ruled by 2 kings. So these 2 kings were chosen from descendants of 2 royal families. And next, they had Council of Elders, or Gerousia. So this was a group of people above 60 years old. They had to serve Sparta for the rest of their lives. And also ephors. So here, there were 5 ephors elected each year by the Ecclesia, which was consists of all male citizens. And as you can see, who could only take part in the government of Sparta? Only the citizens. And who were the citizens of Sparta? Okay, so first, let's discuss classes of people in Sparta. So we have here the Spartiates. So they were the citizens of Sparta. Okay, they owned most of the land and they had political power. That means they could vote and they could be elected as leaders. And they devoted their lives as a soldier. That means they were not allowed or they could not do any other work to earn money aside from that. And we also have Periesai. So they were free settlers who lived in villages around Sparta. They had no say in Spartan government. So that means they had no political power. They could not vote or participate in the government. Okay? They also serve as foot soldiers, or we call them hoplites. And lastly, we have helots. So these were slaves owned by the Spartan state. They worked for individual Spartiates, or citizens, as farm laborers, and they gave half of what they grew to their masters. And they made up a large proportion of the population. Actually, there were more helots than the citizens. Okay, now let's have the first level of Spartan government, the two kings. So they were chosen from two royal families, and they were the chief priest and performed religious duties, and also commanders-in-chief of the army and led in time of war. Now, so maybe you're wondering why there were two kings in Sparta. Well, Herodotus had explanation in his book, The Histories. So, according to Herodotus, a Spartan king named Aristodemus had twin sons. Almost immediately after the two boys were born, Aristodemus died, and Spartans were then faced with a dilemma or a big problem of who was going to be his successor. The Spartans wanted to make the older of the twins the new king, as was custom, but the two boys were so alike and equal. They looked the same, and they could not determine which of the two was the older twin. So the Spartans then turned to the mother of the twins, who told the Spartans that she couldn't even tell them apart. But that was a lie. She knew which of the two was older, but she wanted both her sons to become king. So the Spartans, not sure of what to do, did what any good city-states would do at that time, asked the oracle at Delphi. When they asked the Phidia, the priestess at the temple of Apollo in Delphi, who gave the oracle, she told the Spartans to make both the two boys king. From that point on, the Spartans had two kings, one from the lineage or descendant of each twin. So that's the explanation according to Herodotus. And either king could lead armies into war with the approval of certain council, but it was not permitted for both the kings to lead an army at the same time. One king always had to remain in the Sparta. And now we have here a very famous king of Sparta. So, he's King Leonidas. He was well known as the leader of Thermopylae, a famous battle in the movie 300. So here's the video clip.
Spartans! What is your profession?
You see, old friend, I brought more soldiers than you did.
King Leonidas and 300 Spartan soldiers held off Persian army as it tried to invade Greece, but unfortunately, he died during the battle. Okay, next, we have the Gerousia or Council of Elders. Okay, so this was a group of 30 men over 60 years old, and the two kings were part of this. And they were elected by the ecclesia or appella to serve for the rest of their lives. Okay? And their role was to advise the kings. And they were the high court of Sparta and judge criminal cases. While in Athens, they have trial by jury. They have courts and they had trial by jury. But in Sparta, the Gerousia served as the high court and they judge criminal cases. Okay? And they also had the power to reject. When we say reject, that means disapprove or turn down any decision of the ecclesia that they decided was not acceptable. Now let's have the other level, ephors. So there were 5 ephors that were elected each year. There one from each of the 5 villages of Sparta. What were their responsibilities? They were responsible for the discipline of the state and education of young people. They also met with foreign ambassadors. They presided over meetings. When I say presided, that means they are in charge or the leaders of the meetings of the council and appella. And they declared war on the Helots each year and controlled the Crypteia. Well, the Crypteia was the secret police force of Sparta. They served as spies on Helots to make sure that they wouldn't rebel. Okay, now let's move on to ecclesia, also known as the appella. Okay, so this consists of all male citizens and 30 could take part in. They met every month when there was a full moon, and they elected officials and decided foreign policy. When we say foreign policy, it refers to how a government deals with other countries to protect the country and its citizens both within and outside the country. And lastly, the Ecclesia voted for the Cherusia and Ephors. So, those were the levels of Spartan government. Now we're done with our discussion, so let's have our first activity. Cherusia, Ephors, or Ecclesia? So I want you to write the correct level of the government in the space provided. Okay, so you have 30 seconds to finish this. And time starts now. Okay, so let's check your answers. They elected officials and decided foreign policy. Was it Cherusia, Ephors, or Ecclesia? The answer is Ecclesia. Okay, next. They were elected by the Ecclesia to serve for the rest of their lives. That's Cherusia, or the Council of Elders. Next. Their role was to watch over the activities of the kings. That's Cherusia. So they advised the kings as well. Okay, next. This was a group of 30 men who were over 60 years old. The answer is Cherusia. And lastly, they declared war on the Helots each year and ordered the Crypteia. The answer is the Ephors. Okay, great. Okay, let's continue. So here, I'll give you another 30 seconds. And let's start now. Okay, let's check your answers. The two kings were part of this group. The answer is Cherusia. Okay, they had the power to reject or turn down any decision of the Ecclesia that decided was unacceptable or not good. The answer is Cherusia. And they were the high court of Sparta and judged criminal cases. It's still Cherusia, or the Council of Elders, and all male citizens over the age of 30 could take part in this group. The answer is Ecclesia, and they were responsible for the discipline of the state and education of young people. The answer is Ephors. Great job! Okay, now let's move on to our second activity. So here, I want you to complete the sentences by using the picture clues. And you have 15 seconds to do this. Let's start. Okay, now let's check your answer. For number 1, Oracle of Delphi is a place where the Greeks believed that the gods would speak to the people. Okay, number 2, Crypteia was the secret police force of Sparta controlled by the Ephors. And number 3, the hoplites were the foot soldiers in Spartan army. Now let's move on to our third activity. So here I have 3 questions and I want you to do it in 30 seconds. Are you ready? Let's start now. Okay, now let's check your answers. For number 1, who created the system of government of Sparta? The correct answer is letter... Okay, that's letter B, Lycurgus, or the lawgiver of Sparta. Okay, number 2, could any person who lived in Sparta take part in the government? Of course not. Only the citizens or the Spartiates. Okay, next, number 3. Why did the Ephors need to send spies on Helots? It's because, okay, to make sure that the Helots would not rebel. Well done. Okay, now let's try to analyze and use a source. So again, this is source 4E from your book. I want you to read this source and answer the 2 questions. And don't worry, I already have given you the clues to help you answer the questions. And you have 30 seconds to do this. Time starts now. Okay, now let's check your answer. So for the first question, what were the 3 changes that Lycurgus made to Sparta? So first, he divided the land equally. He banned or stopped gold and silver. And he ruled that money must be made only from iron. Okay, next, number 2. Describe how each change would have affected the level of crime in Sparta. So, equal ownership of property might stop people jealous or envious enough to steal from another person. Without luxurious goods like gold and silver, there would be few things that were valuable enough to bother stealing. The answer. Brilliant. Okay, now let's move on to the summary of our lesson, and we're going to do this all together. Okay, so first, who created the Spartan system of government? The answer, Lycurgus. Okay, and Sparta was ruled by 2 kings. And what were the levels of government of Sparta? So we have the 2 kings, council of elders, or the Gerousia, Ephors, and Ecclesia. So the 2 kings were chosen from 2 royal families, and they were the chief priests and commanders-in-chief of the army. Okay, next, the council of elders were a group of 30 men over 60 years old, and they were elected by the Ecclesia to serve the rest of their lives. So that means they have to serve Sparta until their death. And they were advisors of the kings and high court in Sparta. And they had the power to reject any decision of the Ecclesia. And we have the Ephors. How many Ephors were elected each year? Okay, there were 5. And what about their responsibilities? So first, they are responsible for the discipline of the state and education of young people. And also, they declared war on the Helots every year. Remember Helots, the slaves in Spartan society. And then we have here the Ecclesia. So all male citizens eligible. They elected official, they decided foreign policy, and voted for the Gerousia and Air Force. So those were the levels of the government. And how about the Crypteia? So Crypteia was the secret police force of Sparta controlled by the Air Force. They serve as spies on the helots. And that's the end of our lesson today. Excellent! Now, for self-assessment section, I want you to check by yourself whether you understood the lesson or not. So if you can do it, or if you have met your unit goal, then put a tick. And if not, or if you still have questions, cross it out and try to review the video lesson again. That's all for today.
Goodbye everyone! Thank you for watching, keep safe, and see you next time!